Previously, on the world of Wannaian, the group of legendary heroes consisting of Ruku, Salal, Groz, Nemeia, Yaotal, and Shalryn, along with Ruku's companion the Dwarven Earth Mage Orm, arrived in the land of giants. Ruku began having intense visions and was flooded by mixed memories that made it difficult for him to determine what was real and what was not. In a few of these visions, Ruku was met by the voice of Terrax, the Dragon King from the land of monsters. Nemeia used her magic to calm Ruku's mind, and he drifted off into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, the heroes were targeted by 3 gigantic chimeras from the land of monsters in the form of a monkey, a bat, and a boar. The heroes managed to defeat the large threats, but not unharmed. While resting at camp for the night to rebuild their strength, the heroes were targeted by the shadow creatures belonging to the Shadow Mage that once attacked them at Nemeia's Tavern. The heroes would have been goners, but Ruku awoke from his slumber in some sort of trance. He spoke in ancient Wannaian and unlocked the spells hidden within his magic tome. Ruku defeated the shadow creatures with his Infernal Violet spell. The heroes were able to determine that the barrier surrounding the land of monsters was weakening rapidly, and the Shadow Mage must be working for Terrax. Before the heroes could process the day's events, Professor Thanalos sent the heroes an oracle call that sent paranoia and worry through their minds. What did Professor Thanalos say to the group that got them all worked up? Let's find out on today's episode, The World of Wannaian, the Sacred Grove. The group of legendary heroes consisting of Ruku, Salal, Groz, Nemeia, Yaotal, and Shalryn, along with Ruku's companion the Dwarven Earth Mage Orm, continue onward on their journey in search of the 7th legendary hero. The group's thoughts are still shaken by Thanalos' cryptic message. The words continued echoing in Ruku's mind. The barrier cracks not from without, but from within. Trust not the hands that guide you. Ruku focused on the first part of the message. He understood the barrier cracking as the weakening of the magic barrier surrounding the land of monsters. The part about it being caused from within is what troubled him. Ruku began to wonder if one of the heroes, one of his companions, or even he himself is the cause. The heroes were all trying to decipher the message as Ruku was doing. Salal and Yaotal were very vocal in their thinking. What if the professor was trying to say it was someone in our group trying to destroy the barrier? Perhaps one of us is working for the Dragon King.
I believe that would be a very probable prediction. However, my ancestral magic won't be able to determine if any of this could be verified.
I don't know you all very well, but from the pages I wrote about you in my diary entries from my past lives, I know no one here would ever betray their friends.
I must agree with Shalryn. We've been through so much together. If they wanted us out of the picture so Terrax could be released from this prison, they've had several chances already.
What if they don't know themselves because they were given false memories? Everyone stopped and stared at Groz in disbelief. His ideas normally revolved around fighting. To hear him speak about an idea that made sense threw everyone for a loop. After his words sunk in, everyone turned to face Ruku. Before Ruku could speak up to defend himself, Orm chimed in. You can't be serious, Groz. Ruku has been my best friend for years. He's clearly got a problem with these visions, but they are also the same visions that led him to each and every one of you, and allowed you all to reunite. Groz put his head down to bow and apologize. Ruku, who didn't think Groz was 100% wrong, bowed his head back and accepted his apology. The group continued walking north, following Yaotal's ancient map and Salal's magical golden compass, an item that points in the direction of the holder's desires. As the group walked across the volcanic landscape, Shalryn noticed an approaching sandstorm heading their way. Ruku looked up and realized that Shalryn wasn't seeing an hallucination.
Everyone, hold on tight to each other and brace yourselves!
Everyone linked arms and prepared for the incoming sand. The heroes closed their eyes as the raging sand began pelting their bodies. Ruku began to open his right eye just a little and noticed a bright warm light overtaking them. When everyone opened their eyes, they were surprised by what they saw. The volcanic landscape became a lush green one. They were surrounded by trees, grass, and normal-sized animals. What is this place? I think it's a grove, Orm. I can't shake the feeling like I've been here before. Yaotal looked down at her ancient map, but it was blank. She tried using her ancestral magic, but that didn't seem to help. Salal took out his enchanted golden compass, but all it did was spin around without stopping.
This place is beautiful.
Did you guys hear that? I think I heard something coming from this direction. The group followed Groz behind a thicket of trees. They found the source of the noise Groz heard coming from a Donfiant roller. The creature was 4 feet in height, weighing about 260 pounds. It was gray with 2 large white tusks. Its trunk had plated armor that stretched all the way to its back. The Donphiant roller was able to roll itself into a ball and propel itself by rolling at high speeds. This creature was trying to attack a floral creature.
Perhaps we should assist.
I don't think that will be necessary, my friend. Just wait a moment and you'll see what I see. The Donphiant roller started charging and rolling at the floral creature known as a Blosmian rose. The Blosmian rose was roughly 2 feet in height, weighing approximately 15 pounds. It had light green skin, leaves that formed a dress, and 2 fully bloomed flowers on its head. As the Donphiant roller was about to land a critical blow, something came out of the shadows and put an end to the Donphiant roller's life in one quick swoop. Standing at about 5 feet in height was a female tabaxi cheetah. She wore a black outfit with a light green paw insignia on the chest. In her hands was a unique-looking knife that gave off a faint glow. The group watched as the tabaxi cheetah walked over to the Blosmian rose and gave it a gentle pat on the head. The creature smiled and began walking off into the grove. The tabaxi walked over to the Donphiant roller, who laid motionless on the ground. Then she looked up in the direction of the heroes.
If you don't want to end up like this poor creature, I suggest you tell me who you are and why you have come here.
The group moved slowly to show that they meant no harm to the tabaxi cheetah. I am Ruku, and these are my companions. We were journeying in the land of giants, and somehow a sandstorm transported us here.
My name is Thrall. It would seem the sacred grove has granted you access to the sanctuary. Perhaps it believes you to be good.
Ruku's eyes began to widen when he heard the words Sacred Grove spoken. Then he began to have a vision. As clear as day, he could see Thrall wearing yellow armor surrounded by the Sacred Grove. In her hands was an all too familiar looking scroll. He heard her say,
Gather round, heroes. I've completed writing the prophecy.
The other heroes, adorning armor as well, gathered around Thrall, and she began reciting the words. Ruku's eyes began to open, and he noticed everyone staring at him as he heard himself reciting the prophecy aloud. After 1,000 years, the magic barrier will begin to fail, and the 7 heroes will be called to action to protect the world. The heroes will gather themselves and the sacred items of the past to conduct the ritual. Peace will return to the world after a great sacrifice is made from the hero out of time. Thrall continued the prophecy as if by instinct. Everyone stopped and let the words sink in. Yaotal walked over to Thrall and waved her hands while channeling her ancestral magic. All the heroes began glowing a different color, including Thrall, who was glowing yellow. Orm, the only one of the group who was not glowing a distinct color, had the largest smile on his face.
Thrall! You're the final member we've been searching for. You're one of the 7 legendary heroes of Wannaian.
You think I'm one of these 7 legendary heroes?
Of course you are, Thrall. I just had a vision of you in the secret grove. You were here 1,000 years ago, writing the ancient prophecy the day we... Hold it right there. Did you just say you had a vision? Yes. My visions have led me to each of the legendary heroes. We need you, Thrall, to help us ensure the safety of Wannaian from the failing magical barrier surrounding the land of monsters. You expect me to trust complete strangers because you had a vision of me. I will not put my trust in a prophet. Thrall, we're not the bad guys. Terrax, the Dragon King from the land of monsters, he's the bad guy. We need your help to put an end to his terror. Those who walk with shadows often don't realize when the shadows walk within them.
Thrall's words mirrored Thanalos' message. The barrier cracks not from without, but from within. Trust not in the hands that guide you. Ruku's unease began to deepen as he began to truly consider that he may be the reason why the barrier's magic is failing. The moment is cut short as the sound of terrified animals begin to flee the sacred grove. Plumes of smoke towered above the trees, and swirls of red and blue fire could be seen destroying the grove. No, no, no! You have brought disaster to my home! Seething with rage, Thrall ran towards the source of the flames. When she made it through the clearing in the center of the forest, she could see the great white oak, the oldest of the trees in the forest, succumbing to the flames. Next to the great white oak were 2 monsters Thrall had never seen before. Shortly after, the rest of the heroes made it into the clearing and came face to face with 2 chimeras from the land of monsters. The largest chimera looked to be 50 feet in height and approximately 600 pounds. It seemed to be a mix of a skulled awoke, a Hydrian draken, and a guzzling spikeback. This chimera had a large skull, a large charcoal body with 6 legs, sharp spikes running down its back, a large bone club with blue flames, and the most interesting feature, a large mouth on its stomach. The mouth had a mechanized look to it with several spikes along the inner cheeks of the mouth and along its tongue. There were also 2 large tendrils with heads, and sharp teeth coming out of its mouth. The smaller chimera was 20 feet in height and approximately 200 pounds. It was a mix of a Skeldric Horror, a Mancian Flamewing, and a Houndrix Mega. This chimera also had a skull, but seemed to have more bones adorned across its body. It also had a very thick-looking hide, short legs, a long tail, with 2 sharp spikes at the tip, and a pair of flaming wings. This can't be a coincidence. The number of chimera attacks has begun to increase. Terrax is still targeting us. No worries, my friend. We'll make quick work of these monsters like we did the others. You better not get in my way. Thrall charged in at the smaller chimera, hoping to make quick work of it. Ruku, Shalryn, and Orm joined Thrall, and the rest of the group went to face the largest threat. Salal began calling the largest chimera the Skulled Hydrian Guzzling. It was beyond powerful. Groz, Salal, and Yaotal all drew out their weapons and struck the chimera with all their might, but nothing seemed to faze it. In fact, it was impervious to all their attacks. Nemeia stayed back to see if the others would be able to make use of her support magic. Currently, her abilities worked flawlessly when she was cooking meals to amplify strength, stamina, and healing. Only a few times has she tried channeling her magic through her hands into Ruku, and it has proven successful. Nemeia wasn't sure if her abilities would work on the others the same way it did Ruku, but she felt like today was going to be the day she would find out. Orm referred to the smaller chimera as the Houndrix Horrorflame. The chimera was quite elusive despite the length of its limbs. It would shift from being on its hind legs to being on all fours. It managed to evade Shalryn's water attacks and Thrall's swift knife. Orm tried using long-range earth magic, but the chimera would use its wings to fly and evade. While in the air, it flapped its wings hard, and fireballs began to fly down towards the ground. Ruku was quick and managed to use his burning chain spell. The spell created several long flaming chains that stretched out in all directions, destroying the fireballs. Thrall glared at Ruku. He knew that she didn't trust the group, but she was also upset because he might accidentally help the chimeras burn down the entire sacred grove. Then Thrall's words rang in his head. Those who walk with shadows often don't realize when the shadows walk within them. Ruku was in a tough spot. How could he prove he was one of the good guys to Thrall? How could he fight these chimeras without using his fire magic? Salal noticed Nemeia off to the side. He grabbed a weapon out of his pocket dimension and handed it to her. We could really use your help, my friend. I know you're dying to fight.
This is a tanto. It's a small knife blade used by shinobi.
I think it's a perfect weapon for a chef. Now what do you say? Nemeia gripped the tanto in her right hand and channeled her magic through it. The blade began glowing pink, and a smile filled her face. The Skulled Hydrian Guzzling sent out one of the tendrils from its mouth towards Nemeia. She quickly reacted and sliced the face end of the tendril. It roared in pain as its skin was pierced by Nemeia's magically enhanced tanto.
I think I may finally be of use.
Nemeia and Salal charged in to aid Groz and Yaotal. Meanwhile, Orm's long-distance earth magic wasn't landing. He grew exhausted by the amount of magical energy he was using up in this fight. Shalryn managed to hit the Houndrix Horrorflame with some of his water magic, causing the creature to wince in pain. However, it wasn't enough to slow it down. The Houndrix Horrorflame breathed fire out of its mouth, and Thrall managed to use her knife to absorb the magical fire and repel it with extreme precision. Her training as an assassin for the Greenpaw Guild had really paid off. The chimera stumbled back slightly, but it recovered very quickly and went on the offensive. Off in the corner of her eye, Thrall could see the great white oak burning. She could sense that the sacred grove was crying out in pain. When she was a young cub, her family lived a nomadic lifestyle. They were moving across the hot sands, hoping to find a more comfortable place to settle for the night when a pack of werewolves killed her family. It was then the sacred grove intervened and transported her and the werewolves within its territory. The wolves were being restricted by the roots of the great oak. It absorbed their essence and turned their bodies into wolfsbane, beautiful drooping deep purple flowers. Thrall touched the tree and was imbued with magical abilities granted by the great white oak. After receiving its gifts, she heard its inner voice in her head. Help me protect the sacred grove. A barrage of fireballs was sent flying towards Thrall. She swiftly and elegantly evaded each one. She turned to look at Shalryn before she said, Fishman, I need you to take care of the great white oak. Put out the flames engulfing it, and the flames destroying the sacred grove. We'll need it to defeat these beasts. Shalryn was confused, but he could see the determination in Thrall's piercing eyes. He turned his attention to the flames and left the battle to the rest of the heroes. Ruku was lost in thought when the Houndrix Horrorflame used its fire breath on him. Thrall and Orm's eyes widened when they noticed the flames surrounding Ruku weren't harming him. His body began levitating inside the fireball, with his eyes glowing a bright green. The flames surrounding him began taking on the same color. As the flames swirled around Ruku like a cocoon, he began slipping into a series of intense visions. Ruku saw himself and the other heroes wearing their colored armor as they entered the sacred grove. He heard Thrall telling the group, "We have arrived at the sacred grove. This place has been here since before the First Kingdoms."
This is a perfect place where all the magical ley lines of Wannaian connect. This will be the best place to begin anchoring the magical barrier.
Let's not forget after this, we will need to head into the heart of the land of monsters to anchor the second part.
Once the ritual is completed and the anchor points are connected, the magical barrier should be strong enough to prevent Terrax from escaping and causing more trouble across the land. Ruku could see the group swearing an oath under the great white oak. Ruku's vision drifted, and he could see the heroes beginning the ritual. It changed again, and he could see the heroes with their hands up facing the land of monsters. He could see tears in everyone's eyes before the vision began to glow a bright white light. Once out of his vision, Ruku's magical tome levitated, flipping to one of the spells near the back of the spellbook. He then shouted out, "Igniting green!" Unstable-looking green flames began to spark and fly off Ruku. They began to ignite underneath him and spread forward towards the Chimera and the rest of the grove.
What have you done?
Shalryn had put out most of the flames on the great white oak when he realized the green flames were closing in fast. He tried using his water magic to stop Ruku's flames, but they just faced through. The green flames then engulfed the great white oak. Thrall's expression turned into terror as she witnessed this, and shifted again after seeing what happened next. Ruku had a smile on his face as the flames began to heal the tree and extinguish the flames caused by the two chimeras. The sacred grove began to heal under the green flames. The flames continued to spread across the grove. The heroes were surrounded by the flames, but no harm came to them. When the flames reached the chimeras, things were different. The bone club belonging to the skulled Hydrian Guzzling and the flaming wings of the Houndrix horror flame were all extinguished. What came next surprised all except for Thrall. The roots of the great white oak wrapped around the two chimeras, and their life force was absorbed, leaving behind several flowers. Ruku walked over and touched the tree to thank it. He heard the tree speaking in his mind and was shocked by what it said.
The barrier cracks, not from without, but from within. Trust not the hands that guide you.
The exact words Thanalos spoke. Thrall, having witnessed the courage displayed by the heroes and their willingness to help protect the sacred grove, decides to join the Seven. The group fills Thrall in on all that has happened on their adventures. Ruku even mentioned his visions of Thrall, who after hearing his words began to get a strange feeling of familiarity. But there was something Thrall couldn't quite shake from her mind. When night fell and the heroes were preparing to drift off to sleep, Thrall headed over to Ruku and warned him.
I see much has been weighing on your mind. I cannot dare to imagine what it is you've been dealing with. But I must get something off my chest if you are to lead us into battle against the land of monsters. Listen closely, Ruku. If you cannot master what stirs within you, you may be the hand we cannot trust.
And with that, the weight already on Ruku's shoulders increased sevenfold. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. This episode was packed. Ruku finally unlocked his final high-level fire spell. He's beginning to waver in his resolve thanks to both the cryptic message and Thrall's warning. We now know what the final word of the prophecy is and need to see how this plays out in the next chapter. We finally have all 7 legendary heroes gathered together, and of course we have doubt at play within the entire group. There's still so much story left to tell, and I hope you all join me along for the ride. Well, that's it for me. As always, I'm Drawing with Mr. S, and I'll see you all in the next video. Y'all take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye-bye.